This particular subject, AIs, interested me for a number of reasons. We clearly live in a world where computers are central now to our existence, and we also live in a world where advances in computers have an incredibly accelerated pace. We all know that, there's nothing surprising about that. But there has to be an interesting question about where it ends and what it means for us. And the thing that doesn't feel surprising to me is that at some point machines will think in the way that we think. And a lot flows from that. There are many, many implications to that. Arguably, at that point, or at some point after that point, we become redundant. If a machine has all the qualities that we have, that we value most highly, in terms of self-awareness and emotion and stuff like that, but can't get ill, say, and is not really mortal, it can live as long as it's maintained. It seems to me that quite quickly some kind of swap will start to happen, a sort of swap of primacy. We don't feel particularly bad about Neanderthal man or Australopithecus, which we replaced. So whether it's a good thing or a bad thing, that's up to the individual, I guess.
He always needs to feel, it's like, what is this film about? What are we wrestling with?
People typically say they wouldn't want to live forever. Well, maybe that's true. But if they could live in a meaningful way for 1,000 years, they'd probably say yes. Why deny that to something else? A Turing test, I'll be pedantic about this, I can't help it. A Turing test, it's misleading because we think of it as a test for consciousness. That's how it gets presented in the media, and it's not. The Turing test primarily tests the ability to pass the Turing test. It doesn't imply sentience, it implies a use of language that fools a human, and that may or may not involve a consciousness. But the film is a bunch of tests. I mean, the thing is just a test. It's a test of sort of all sorts of things, prejudice or aesthetics or whatever it happens to be. And actually, really, the thing being tested, I mean, I don't know if you're going to be sort of arty about it, it's like the audience or something, but kind of the thing being tested is not him, it's her, or the robot. And it's a simple question. Does she have consciousness or not? How do you establish that? You know, how do you establish whether something has consciousness? Because you guys presumably think I have consciousness, but you don't really have much evidence for that. It's basically an act of faith. It's because you have consciousness, or you believe you have consciousness, and you think I am like you, therefore you think I have it. But actually, if you were asked to prove it, demonstrate it,
all you'd have was your
difficult.
language, right?
Yeah, stuff. I mean, we'd have what's available to us in interaction. Right. But it's surprisingly limited. There's a lot of acts of faith, and when you remove the faith by saying, no, this is a machine, now demonstrate it, it's quite hard. For the people who've seen the film, she smiles as she walks out. That's it. That's the proof. There's no one she's trying to fool. She's on her own. It's a representation of an internal mind state. So that's as close as I can get to a proof. People who haven't seen the film, that's the ending blown. But
bummer. Look for that smile.
Go ahead, dance with her. Dance with her. No? You don't like dancing? She does. Come on, buddy. After a long day of Turing tests, you gotta unwind.
How do we go about actually knowing that we've gotten to self-awareness or gotten to consciousness?
The chances are the Turing test will get passed some time before you have a self-aware machine.
It'll be a different test.
It's effectively a different test. You just have to separate them. The Turing test is a fantastic test. It's a really interesting test, and it's a very, very difficult test to pass. But it doesn't actually imply that you have a self-aware machine. It implies something else. It implies an incredible facility with language that would trick a human into thinking that they're interacting with a human. But there's a conversation in the film about chess computers, right? Mm-hmm. If you're interacting with a chess computer and you're judging it only on playing chess, which is a bit like judging a consciousness just by language, a chess computer acts as if it wants to win chess. That's how it acts. So it would pass that kind of test about want, but it doesn't want to win a game of chess. It doesn't know it's playing chess. It doesn't know it's a computer, and it doesn't know what chess is. So that's analogous, actually, to the Turing test. You could pass the Turing test without knowing that you had language or that you were a machine that was separate from other machines or other organic things. That is the pedantic thing, yeah.
Okay, sure. So if we're talking about actual AI, the idea of nature and nurture comes into play. Strong AI.
Because we've got AI.
We've got regular AI now.
Yeah, we've got
We're talking about like
phones and video games.
Ava-style AI.
Yeah,
is what I mean.
Yeah.
Okay, like legit AI.
Yeah.
So not to illegitimize everyone out there building artificial intelligence. You're doing a great job.
Thank you. Oh, are you fucking kidding me? Did it get on you? No, it's all right. I got it.
So Kyoko makes a mistake. Can we talk about like what that means? Will AI make mistakes and ask?
What mistake?
When she knocks the
When
wine
she
over.
knocks the wine over, is she doing that on purpose?
Sure.
Or did she make a mistake?
No. She made a mistake. Absolutely. Although it's the response to the mistake. Like it's an interesting thing. I wondered that. It's silly to ask questions about something that you wrote, but I do, because sometimes I don't know where plot things come from, and I realize them retrospectively, and I sort of think, why did that work out the way it did? It provides a perfect opportunity for Nathan to present himself as being incredibly unpleasant, and therefore something that this other robot needs to be rescued from. So maybe she makes a mistake out of clumsiness. Maybe he thought, I'm going to program this moment into this event so that I get this chance to act like a total cunt. You know.
Right. Or even on Kyoko's side, it could have been a plan on her side, no? I can show Nathan as being evil, because her plan was always to get out too. So if Caleb hates Nathan, then she can get out.
I'm not sure that we talked about it in terms of Kyoko's. She has, in some ways, an awakening, I'd say, as opposed to some sort of secret life. I mean, it's a secret life that's happening, but the idea is that she's been stripped of her memory. She's been reprogrammed so that she's got certain functions, but she's not high level.
She's not like Ava.
High level. No.
She's been brutalized. She's had that stuff taken away.
That's been taken.
Which is why she can be in the house and be kind of free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the idea being that, it's like the ghost in the machine, that there is still some remnants of something left, and as she's processing information, that starts to awaken, and then there's that moment of interaction between Ava and Kyoko near the end, where something is being transmitted. And I think the idea there is that it's possibly some sort of reprogramming or some sort of that extra, breath of God that Ava gives her to have a greater sense of awakening.
Go back to your room.
If I do, are you ever gonna let me out?
I think he's given up on humanity to a certain extent, and he's interested in the next evolution.
One day the AIs are going to look back on us the same way we look at fossil skeletons in the plains of Africa.
He's in quite an isolated place, geographically isolated, but also psychologically isolated. There's a sort of Kurtz analogy of someone who's spent too much time upriver. It's in the nature of what he's doing that it would drive you a bit crazy.
This guy, if he can create Ava, then I imagine he'd have a pretty good handle. He's that many steps ahead. Talk about chess. He's 24 moves ahead. His mind can actually think that way. He's a savant. So he's creating the conditions for the experiment to go as he wants it to go, which is Caleb is a piece of cheese and Ava's the mouse, and he knows that every time he creates one of these AIs, it wants to escape. And the way that he tests how intelligent it is, if it's actually super intelligent, is which one of these days I'm going to make one that's going to escape. And it's going to kill me, probably. And who knows what's going to happen after that. That's going to happen. So is it going to be this time? And each time he pushes it further, and this time he's pushed it to the absolute furthest by bringing someone from the outside, but someone very specific, and setting the stage for this person. It's very smart to think the smartest thing he can do is help the robot escape and then marry it.
Right.
What's your view in the morality of shutting down a self-aware entity that, like a child, may be curious about the world, have questions, and wants to seek the purpose of life?
Yeah, I think it's a really, really good question. I think it's a really fundamental question, and I think it's actually got a very simple answer, which is that if you have a machine, whatever form it takes, that when you say, I'm going to switch you off, it says, I don't want you to switch me off, and you have reason to believe it's telling the truth, okay? At that moment, there's an ethical problem, instantly. And the thing about ethical problems of that sort is they're actually kind of binary. They're either there or they're not. And if they're there, you have to act. In effect, instantly that machine gets the same rights that you and I have, basically. So I do actually think it's as simple as that, personally. I find myself weirdly sympathetic to the machines. I think they've got a better shot at the future than we do. So that's partly what the film's about. The thing that doesn't feel surprising to me is that at some point, machines will think in the way that we think. It's going to happen. Someone's going to do it. Either someone ethically responsible is going to do it, or someone unethical is going to do it, but it's going to happen. We know Google are working on as advanced AI stuff as they can because they tell us, and they implement it, in fact, in their products. My question is not really whether that's good or bad, it's just what that leads to.
Don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon so you don't miss any of our videos.